This video will deal with market-led strategic choice. The need for new marketing has emerged due to increased uncertainty within the marketplace, also because of competition and sophisticated customers and technology. What this means is that the more traditional forms of marketing, trying to place the product in front of the customer and hoping and expecting that the customer will take the product, has become much more sophisticated in the sense that now there is greater emphasis on customer needs and customer satisfaction, and it's the total product, the appearance of the product, the quality of the product, the attributes of the product, the delivery, the price, and the after-sales service. So it's much more sophisticated and much more involved than perhaps it was in the past, or was considered to be in the past. The focus of the article that I mentioned on the front slide is on sustaining competitive advantage and the key issues that need to be considered in order to meet the needs of customers. The needs of customers are very sophisticated. They're very complicated. Customers not only want a product at a good price, whatever that means, but they also want good quality. They want durability. They want consistency. And it must be fashionable, and it must have good design qualities. So if the company can get that blend of attributes together, the right price, the styling, the quality, the branding, if it can get all of it right, all aspects involved in modern day marketing, if you can get that right, then it will build a competitive advantage. It will have a long run sustainable advantage if it's capable of staying at the front, if it's capable of maintaining its marketing presence and its presence, its overall presence within the market, and its perceptions by the customer. So it's much more complicated, I suppose, nowadays than it was considered to be in the past. In the past it was quite a straightforward exercise, and now it's become much more complicated. The article that we're looking at looks at several issues. Core value strategy, for example. What is the core value of the business? What is the business trying to do? Now, on one level we say, well, that's very simple. It's trying to survive. It's trying to make a profit and pay the bills. But perhaps there's another level in which it's trying to satisfy the customers and gain a good reputation in the market. So it's got long-run position in the market. And it may want to present itself in terms of its green credentials, that it's a caring company, it's a well-managed company. It might want to develop a strategic pathway, one which marks it off from the competitors. It uses a variety of strategies in order to cultivate the market, in order to make its presence felt within the market. It could use internet-based resources, for example, and present a very modern view of itself. And it's the way it manages its organizational processes. We know of internet companies, for example, where people go around the office on skateboards, or go to meetings around a pool table, or whatever it is. It may not seem very significant to us. It may not seem worth mentioning. But the fact is, we did mention it. And those companies seem to get a higher profile as a consequence of the way they work, the way they manage themselves. And also there's a need to look at the way the company handles change management. We live in a very sophisticated world, and we live in a world that's changing by the minute. There are new technologies, new ways of thinking, new ideas. they're coming to the fore all the time, and companies must keep abreast of this and cope with it. So these are some of the big issues that are associated with this type of market-led strategic change. So let's look at it in a little more detail. So the article that we looked at, it aims to provide changing perspectives of marketing and the types of approaches that marketing can take. So there are different ways of looking at marketing, and that's what we're really concerned about. The changing demands of customers is what drives all of this. Customers want companies which are forward-looking, have a good reputation, and enjoy the, if you like, the respect of the customers, because they are not just modern companies, but they are modern and they appear to be caring companies. They appear to be companies that are not out to just simply get the money and run. So the drivers of new marketing, well, there's the change strategy. Let's just take it from the left-hand side. The change strategy, as I said, we live in a world which is constantly evolving and changing, and it seems to be changing at an ever-increasing rate. Every day brings new ideas and new perspectives and new technologies, and the world is changing very rapidly. So it's imperative that companies keep abreast of this, keep up to date with the technology, and present a very modern view of themselves. Otherwise they'll be seen as old-fashioned, in the past, not very desirable products. People don't want to be associated with the company. The value strategy of the business, well, what are its values and what does the company believe in? There may be alternative agendas here, and you've got to be careful. Sometimes people have a public agenda, which does one thing, and a more private agenda, which is different. But that shouldn't happen. It should be the case that people are open, and companies should present their values openly. And these are normally caught up in the mission statement of the business. What is the company attempting to do? And try and get it into a sentence. The company is not out to spoil the environment. It's not out to exploit its workers. It's not out to waste resources. These are what it's not aimed to do. And then you put in what it is aiming to do, which could be just the reverse of what I've said. But it's putting forward a view of itself which is acceptable in today's world. The marketing strategy, well, how will it go about fulfilling its obligations to the customers? And we can look at this in all sorts of ways. We could look at it in terms of the value for money. We could look at it in terms of the quantities made available. They're in the right quantities for the customers, meet the customer's needs. They have good quality, so a good brand image. They have been produced ethically, without wasting resources and without spoiling the environment. And we can go through a whole list of desirable qualities, and once these are communicated, then there is a good marketing benefit to be reaped from this type of behavior. The marketing department will report back that the company enjoys good status, good reputation, and that of course will make marketing that much easier. On the bottom right of our slide we have internet strategy. Well, clearly companies nowadays must have some sort of internet presence. In the 1980s, the internet was seen as something which may be just a fashion, it may come and go. But I think now we understand the power of the communications and the power of the internet. And companies, in looking for avenues to communicate its message, they must engage in internet technologies and in an internet presence and present their case there. And the internet is, in a sense, a great commercial democracy. If a company has a website that presents its case, or it has a presence on one of the social network platforms and presents its case, its products, its values, discusses the way it sees the market and the way it sees its customers and so on. If it does that, then it's doing exactly the same. It's got one presence on the internet. It's got one internet address. And so have the big companies. They've got one internet address as well. So in a sense, there's almost a balancing out in terms of technology. I appreciate that the bigger companies will be more active on the internet and will attract more hits and so on. But in terms of the position, then each of them has one website. It's a good communications platform, and companies are continually looking for ways of increasing their presence and getting noticed on the internet. The process strategy on the bottom left, our last one, the process strategy is how does the company produce its products. And as we've seen from other videos on this module and in other modules, there's greater emphasis on quality. Quality is now of paramount importance in the production process. The quality of the service or the quality of the physical product produced. Customers expect good quality. They expect the product to do what the product says. And in fact, that's been enshrined in law in many places. That if the product does not meet acceptable standards, it could be returned, and what was paid for it can be demanded back. So there is greater emphasis in quality and in producing good workmanship, and the processes within the business must be tuned up to that. Let's look at the value strategy again. Organizations differ in terms of their objectives and purposes. They aim to meet different needs. Therefore, value can mean different things to different organizations. Well, that is true. Different organizations will have different objectives and have different purposes. But the overall emphasis is still on producing quality goods or quality services at a good price, delivered effectively, and that meet customer requirements. Now, any deviation from that will probably result in a loss of sales and will be to the detriment of the company. Some customers emphasize on product value while others emphasize lower prices. Customers themselves may be somewhat confused. Some customers think they want it as cheaply as possible. Others are looking for quality. They want a product that's going to last, that has a good image, the company enjoys a good reputation, it's a good brand, and there is a tension between the two. But different companies can aim at different segments. Once drivers of value have been identified, the focus is then placed on value migration. What customers perceive as value may change over time. Migration. The idea here is that that once a company's focus has been identified, once the drivers of the values have been identified, once the company knows what it's aiming at, then it tries to move that over time. The values might evolve because customer requirements are changing, but the core of the values might remain the same. The core being a commitment to quality, a commitment to value for money, a commitment to design, a commitment to the ethical position of the business in terms of its dealings with its employees, with its customers, and with the environment. So the core may remain the same, but there may be a tweaking of what it's trying to do precisely, which market it's aiming at, which segment of the market it's aiming at, which location it's aiming at, and so on. So it's keeping up to date with customer requirements and customers' wants. But sometimes companies lead that. I mean, after all, there wasn't a big demand for iPads before Apple brought one out. Customers were not on the streets campaigning to have an iPad. Customers didn't know what an iPad was. It was an act of pure entrepreneurship that led Steve Jobs and his team to develop the iPad. In a sense, they took a big risk. They took a risk in investing in this technology, but they did it in the hope that the technology would be acceptable. So sometimes companies lead the customers and influence the way the customers place their demands on companies and on the type of products that the customers want. So the big point is, value does not mean the same thing to all customers. Some customers wanted cheap. Some customers wanted very good quality. Some customers want to inquire into the company and are willing to pay a premium if the company is good, in inverted commas. Good being the issues I mentioned earlier in terms of environment, dealing with the workforce and so on. The drivers of value set the basis for segmentation and competitive differentiation in order to gain competitive advantage. So the drivers of value, now these are the issues I talked about in terms of environment and dealing with customers and dealing with employees and so on and so on and so on. These are the basis of segmentation. Markets become segmented. Some people will only buy from certain companies because the companies have a good reputation in terms of their green credentials. Some customers will only buy from certain companies because the companies are seen as very good value for money. Some will deal with them because they've got a good brand image. So the basis of segmentation is based to some extent, or to a large extent, on the values of the business. And of course, if the segmentation is right, if the company is able to play to the different segments of the market that are interested in it, and is able to gain competitive advantage within either the whole market or within that particular segment, then it's got competitive advantage. It's able to differentiate itself, and it has competitive advantage. It will be able to take on and effectively compete with its competitors. There needs to be a greater understanding of what drives value and how value differs for different consumer groups and how these drivers will evolve over time. But that understanding is constantly being fed back from the marketing department. It's the job role of the marketing department really to keep its finger on the pulse, to find out what is the customer's thinking. What are they thinking at the moment? What are their requirements? Keeping an eye on the competitors and on their innovative work and their product development. Keeping an eye on the size of the market and the big trends in the market. So that the company is able to effectively compete within that market. Now, as to what customers want, well, I mean, that's a really big task for the marketing department to decide. You can pick up secondary information from talking to outlets and talking to consumer groups and keeping an eye on which companies or which outlets or which fashions are growing and which ones are declining. It can do that, but that may be too late. It may need to lead the charge to have good rates of growth. And to lead the charge, it must have good information. So it may need to do a lot of primary research, interview customers, interview outlets and people dealing with the product, organize focus groups, organize panels, and get in consultants. The whole idea is to gain a picture of not just the current position in the market, but what is likely to happen in the near future, in the intermediate future, and even into the long term, even though that may be highly speculative. But if that was possible, that would really suit the business, because that's where true competitive advantage rests. Changing market conditions and customer demand has put greater need to develop a robust market strategy. Clearly, as market conditions change and as customers' demands change, marketing strategy must keep up. Marketing strategy, it not just must keep up, it must be contemporary. It must even lead the charge. Go back to the Apple example I gave earlier. When Steve Jobs and his colleagues were developing the iPad, let's say, as I said, there was no real big demand for such a product. They were going to lead customers. They were going to lead customers' demands. When the product came out, people instantly thought this was wonderful, this is amazing, and there was an enormous demand for the product. But before it came out, that was highly speculative. Well, you could say, perhaps not highly speculative, but it was speculative. It was the sign of the entrepreneurship that was within the Apple Corporation and probably within Steve Jobs as the person who seemed to champion the product. So changing market conditions and customer demands has put a really great need, a big need on companies to develop strong marketing strategies, and marketing strategies that are also not just strong, but are also paradoxically, they're flexible. They can change as market conditions change, and the customer and the business is able to stay competitive within a changing world. In order for a marketing or a market strategy to be successful, it must provide direction and purpose. The marketing strategy must flag up the way the company is moving and which way the company is moving. And that must feed back through the organization, through all the various departments within the organization. The recruitment department must select appropriate people who are flexible and keen to implement change and keen to be contemporary and up to date with the current world. The production department, if they make something physical, they must be flexible and capable of working under changing conditions. There may be, for example, some sort of dualism between home production and some outsourced company elsewhere, overseas. But the production department are able to accommodate this. They've worked out ways to do it, and it's a seamless integration. So the marketing strategy, to be successful, it must provide the direction and purpose. It must lead the organization. So we have customer focus and market sensing. That's very important. Understanding what the customers are looking for and the direction in which the customers are moving. Look at the various market choices the company has. to develop high-end products or cheaper products for mass consumption, or innovative products, or what's it going to do? How is it going to meet the competitive pressures that are on it from other companies also? And we live in a globalized world. It's not just looking at the competitors in the country, it's looking at competitors globally. Looking at the value position, looking at how it presents itself, and trusting that it's what the customers want. It would be sad to a large extent if a company had developed its value position in terms of its ethical credentials, in terms of its greenness, its the way it deals with the environment and waste, and the way it uses resources, the way it deals then also with its customers and way it deals with its employees. And if the company is excellent at all of this and makes a product, then if that product is undercut by, let's say, a cheap import, then it would be sad for the company, because the company has gone to a lot of effort to accommodate a lot of conditions, a lot of factors, only to lose market share because its price was somewhat higher than the imported product. So the company faces real problems. Sometimes imported products may not be produced in the same ethical way. Sometimes products produced within the country, forget the imported products, they may not be produced in the same ethical way. So that if one producer stands out as a good company, trying hard to be decent in terms of its dealings with the environment and with its workforce and with the customer and so on, if one company stands out, it may have to charge more because it's taking longer, it's dealing with quality, and it's dealing with the issues, and it's properly running the business. But it may have to charge a bit more for its product, and that leaves it open to the challenge to be undercut by some unscrupulous producer, domestically or overseas. And what are the key relationships? What exactly is the relationship between the customer and the company, between the suppliers and the company? What's the relationships within the company in terms of the flow and the processes within the company, and how does the company deal with all of these relationships? It is a highly complex web of connections. The customers, the suppliers, the employees, the competitors, the government, local communities, pressure groups, all the stakeholders. It's highly complex. So it's the going to market, the process of going to market. But once it's sorted, the company can then go to market. So that would be the strategic pathway. That's how it develops. It develops with the customer focus and market sensing at the start, going all the way down to developing and dealing with these key relationships. Customer focus and market sensing. Let's when we dealt with this, we'll go through these points, customer focus all the way down to key relationships. Let's deal with them in turn. Now, customer focus and market sensing. Well, understand customers and how needs are changing. Important. Implementing market knowledge to make better decisions. It's important that the marketing department, as I said, feedback detailed information about the market, about the way the market is evolving, the requirements of the market, and so that better decisions can be made in-house. Look at the focus on customer value. This is what customers want. They want good quality products, they want good reputation, they want durability, they want the product to do what it says, and they want it at a good price. The market choices. Well, the dynamics of the market are changing and traditional marketing strategies are becoming ineffective. When I say the dynamics of the market, I mean this incessant movement in terms of technology, this constant movement, this constant evolution of technology and communication systems. And with the better flow of communications and the better flow of information around the world, customers know where the products are. There is the onset of online trading. And when people buy products online, the products can come from anywhere in the world. So it's not just a question of looking at companies domestically, it's looking at the global position. For many companies, they are dealing in a global position. And it's trying to develop marketing strategies that are capable of dealing with that. Not relying on more traditional marketing strategies which were suitable to a time before the internet, before customers become so sophisticated and so tuned up to what they wanted. Organizations must be open to new business models if they wish to keep their competitors, if they wish to deal with their competitors, not to keep them. So they need to deal with their competitors, and to do that, they must be constantly on the lookout for new ways of working, new ways of organizing themselves. There's no grounds for complacency. There's no grounds for the company having implemented some changes and have reaped the benefits in terms of efficiency and lower cost, and to sit back and say, well, job done. It's not job done. They must now move on to developing business models which are flexible, which will bend as the market changes, and which will update the whole business structure, update it continually, tweak it continually to meet changing customer requirements. Opportunities for value creation and innovative approaches to segmentation. So the market choices are constantly to create value, to look at ways in which values can create in terms of new product development or in terms of cutting costs for existing products, or looking for innovative ways of dealing with situations. The need for entrepreneurship has never been greater. With the highly competitive pressure that companies now find themselves in, they need to be entrepreneurial. They need to have innovative approaches to segmentation. They need to be able to spot different segments of the market and address those segments. It's not a question of one size fits all. The market can't produce one product, let's say, and hope that everybody will be happy with it. Customers have different requirements depending on the different segments of the market in which they operate. But also the competitors are putting pressure on, because the competitors are stepping in to fill any niche that they perceive in the market. So it's imperative that the business be flexible and looking for opportunities to create value and to be innovative. The value proposition, well, is the process of delivering value to different customer groups. Now, this is the process of delivering value to different customer groups. It's looking at different customer groups in terms of segmentation, let's say, looking at the requirements of the different groups and being able to effectively address those requirements. So if a company makes a particular product, they may have to make several different versions of the product to try and address the different needs within the market. And that, again, is a reflection of the increasing sophistication of the customers and the power of communications and the power of marketing, but also the competitive environment, because if they don't address precisely the different groups, then other companies will see the niche and will step in. And they may step in anyway, so that even small niches are competitive. Value creation is gained through market strategy. It's important to establish what the customer perceives as value. It's very important to try and get into the minds of the customer to see what is it that they really want. What are they after? So it's very important that the customers be understood. The key relationships. Well, maintaining relationships with customers, collaborators and co-workers and competitors. It's important that the company deals with all of them and deals with them in a way that picks up information from them. It watches the competitors and picks up information. What are they working on? What products have they got? How much are they charging? What are the quality of their products? Looks at the customers and the requirements of the customers and feedback from customers and feedback from the marketing department about customers and so on, and tries to maintain the relationships and develop the relationships if the business wants to be in business in the long run. These are important issues. The relationships are key as they help to deliver value to customers and drive the market strategy. These relationships that we just talked about, the key relationships, these are very important because these are the sources of information. These are the sources of feedback that the company needs in order to develop its product and develop its strategies going into the future. So it's important that the company sets up a network of looking at these key relationships, and that network feeds back perhaps through the marketing department, and thus will drive the future strategy. The internet strategy. Well, the internet and e-business has played a major role in the development of the marketing concept. This has been a big change in business practice. In the past, companies could be secretive almost about their processes and their ways, but now there's greater transparency, and information about companies flows around the internet almost freely. So companies must do what they say. Companies must present an image that is positive and caring and so on. And the advent of e-business has also shaken up immensely the competitive environment. It may now be the case that customers who want to buy, let's say, a major piece of domestic equipment, let's say an expensive television set, might now go online, isolate the one they want, select the one they're interested in, and then go off to a local store and try and look at it, physically look at it and walk around it and test it and talk to the salesman about its qualities and what it can do, and have the salesman show them how it works, and then go home and buy it online because it's cheaper. So they have used the shop and they've used the outlet to facilitate the sale that they were going to make online. It seems very unfair, but the advent of e-business and selling, e-retailing or e-tailing as it's called sometimes, the advent of all of this has shaken the market to a large extent. It's now a major source of buying. And orders, of course, placed on the online can come from anywhere in the world. The internet offers many opportunities for business as well. The internet has allowed for more convenient and efficient means of communications. So it depends critically on the nature of the product. A company making a heavy piece of capital equipment is not going to benefit a lot from advertising online. Not many people online will want to buy a major piece of machinery. But if people are selling music or a book or something of this nature, then the internet is an ideal platform. The evolution of the internet indicates three perspectives on marketing strategy. So the evolution of the internet can flag up three different perspectives. Now the article introduces, the one I mentioned right on the first slide, that introduces three perspectives: multi-channeling, bricks and clicks, and knowledge sharing. So multi-channeling, well, the internet offers opportunities for direct marketing and a sales channel. So it does the two things. It markets the product, and it's a sales channel. People can buy from it. With many companies, there's a marketing department. The marketing department deals with information about customers' needs and all the various marketing functions. But generally speaking, the marketing department don't sell directly. They persuade perhaps outlets to take the product and help the outlets position the product, but other outlets perhaps sell. It's rare that marketing departments will sell to the public directly. But online, the company can market its products and then just put in an extra page, it seems, and it's got a sales channel. So it's multi-channeling. Channels must operate in accordance with corporate values and customer value, and the process must benefit both parties. But if it's well done, if the site is well designed and well presented, then why not? The company can market its products, can tell the customer how good the product is and how it meets their needs and so on, and then puts a link in to say, if you want to buy this, it's at that price, and press here and you'll receive it in 3 days. But of course, all of that must be done in accordance with the values of the business and also is acceptable to the customer. And it depends on the product to a large extent. It depends on the nature of the product. The channels that are used, they must be perceived as value enhancing. When people go onto the site, they want to read about a product. There's a chance or an opportunity for the business to market itself and its products, and there's also an opportunity perhaps for it to make direct sales online. But it's presenting more information about the product and how the product will facilitate customer needs. Bricks and clicks, well, the assumption that the internet channels alongside physical resources are more successful than a sole .com business. That seems to be borne out by a lot of what's happening in the high street. It's a mixture. Nowadays, it's possible to buy the product online and reserve it and pick it up from the local store. That's a possibility. Sometimes we buy entirely from online and have it delivered directly. So it's not bricks and clicks, it's just clicks. Bricks and clicks, bricks means a physical building. We do see a lot of companies with this hybrid approach. They've got their website used for marketing. They promote their website in their shops or in their outlets, and customers can deal online and then go back and collect the products in store. And of course, when they're in the store, they may see something else which attracts them, and there could be some sort of impulse buying when they're there. The article that we're dealing with illustrates Tesco as a successful business which has utilized its online shopping strategy. Although Tesco Direct is an additional channel to Tesco's retailing business. I think one of the more interesting ones in terms of supermarkets is the ability to shop online and to have groceries delivered. Now, this is, I think, a revolution in the making, because many people who are working and who are busy lifestyles, can, in the lunchtime at work or when they're having a break, go on to one of the supermarkets and do their weekly shopping. And it's made convenient for them. And then someone else will collect the items, and it'll be delivered to their home when they state they want to have it delivered. That is a big addition, I think, to this concept of bricks and clicks. Knowledge sharing. Well, the internet offers opportunities for better communications and knowledge sharing. Resources such as the intranet and extranet links customers and suppliers. It is interesting that there is now better communications between companies and customers. It's easy to send an email, and sometimes on websites, when looking at a product, we're invited to chat, to talk to a sales representative. It's very similar to being in a store when a sales representative comes up to us and asks if they can help. We're on a website, and there is some person willing to help us. So there's better communications and knowledge sharing. There is greater customer awareness, which allows for effective relationship building. Customers are aware of what the market is, and they know what they want. Customers are now sophisticated. They are not pushovers. They are sophisticated individuals who have good technical knowledge. They're online, perhaps, dealing with companies and products online. They're evaluating the product online by looking at pictures and reading the specifications. This is not impulse buying. This is considered buying. Now, the company can communicate with them, but they must communicate on a basis that these are sophisticated consumers. And if they meet eye to eye, if what the company is offering is what the customer wants, there is the basis for relationship building. That the customer will see this website as valuable and useful, and will bookmark it and will return to it. The internet has allowed knowledge sharing between customers, clients, suppliers, industries, competitors, and on a global scale. Customers give review of products, and they say what was good about the product and what was bad about the product. Well, of course, competitors can read that and can say, well, customers liked that attribute. We must build that into our product as well, because customers like it. They liked it on their site, so we will have it as well. So they can read the feedback the customers give and identify the major positive points about a product. They can also identify the negative points. They say we should develop products that miss out on those because people don't like them. So it's sharing knowledge, it's sharing opinions, ideas, and there could be even focus groups and blogs or communications networks on social media dealing with particular products and particular companies, and all of that is information. But it's also information in the public domain, so that competitors can see it, different companies can link into different groups and see what the trends are, and marketing departments can keep an eye on it. There is an immense source of information available through internet communications. Business needs to consider the following. How does the internet impact on market strategy? So the company needs to be very sure about this, and it needs to investigate it, but it can't be complacent. It must watch for the internet, because the internet has surprised many companies in its rise to power. And latecomers did not fare well as a consequence of their reluctance to join in. Also, how does the internet enhance our ability to meet customer demands? How can the internet be used? And as more and more people go online, there's a greater need for companies to present their case and to offer updates and link to customers and have databases which include customers' email addresses and accounts and so on. How does it enhance customer value? Well, it could enhance customer value by making information more readily available, better quality information, more timely information. How would it develop a better relationship between customer and the business? Because there is greater understanding between the customer and the business, perhaps. Customers see the business as one which is approachable. They can send an email and get a response. They can post something on a blog and a company representative will go on the blog and try to answer the question. And they're doing it publicly. There's nothing hidden. There's greater confidence in the business. This is an open business that's trying hard to meet customer requirements. And that's the image that could be put forward. And also looking at the implications on competition. What are the implications of the internet? Well, as I said, there's much more openness, so the unique selling point of the business will be exposed through customer feedbacks and blogs and comments and so on. Anything which goes wrong will immediately get a write-up, it appears, on the internet, and that can be damaging to the business. So it's important that the business maintain its quality and its position in the market. But the competitors are trying to do the same, and they're watching each other, and they've now got a conduit into the business. They can now see what its marketing strategy is. They can see what it's emphasizing in terms of its product. They can see how it's innovating the products. So the competitors can see into the companies by just accessing their websites, reading what they're doing and what they're aspiring to do, and they can counter those strategies with their own. So it's becoming much more competitive. Now, process strategy. Well, the process of going to market involves total integration of market processes and building market strategies around customer and perceived value. So it's the idea of going to market and integrating market processes and building market strategies. Well, market processes could be in the form of creating the right product at the right price and addressing particular niches in the market. But having strategies which will effectively present the company's case, effectively present the new product or the innovative product, and make the people who were previously unsatisfied or had this need, make them aware of its existence and how to get it and the price and its quality and its attributes and its warranties and so on. Piercy, the writer, introduces another model, which was figure 5, in which he examines effective integration of all departmental functions to make processes effective. Now we'll come on to this in a second. The model emphasizes emphasizes value identification, value creation, and value delivery. How well are the processes integrated to meet customer values? So the Piercy model will look at values and the importance of values right throughout the system, from value identification, value creation, and value delivery. So let's have a look. We have value definition, value development, value delivery, and we have the process dimensions. So we have the analytical and technical processes. Now these analytical processes, perhaps analyzing market trends, analyzing customer needs and customer wants and so on, or the technical, looking at the technical dimensions of developing the products and looking at that, the whole information structure that's needed to develop products and innovate. So value definition, well, the definition here is it's what's coming out of the process is information. The company's gaining information. So the value definition is information. The value development is in operations, because the information will be worked upon. The company will take the information and do something with it. That's the operations, the value development. And the value delivery can be something in the value chain, something which has changed in production, in the transformation of inputs into outputs. The company is able to tweak the product it's making or change its processes. And it does that because of the right back to the start, the analysis and the technical analysis that's been done. It could be market analysis or production analysis or whatever, but there is a change in terms of value delivery. There's also behavioral. That is interpretation and understanding. What is it that the customers want? What is it the market is trying to do? Or what is the linkage between the market and the value definition? The value definition is understanding the market, understanding the issues involved in production, the human dimension, understanding the customers, the human dimension again, and then the value component, the value development. Well, it's motivation. The understanding of behavior is linked to motivation and commitment. And how is motivation and commitment fostered? Which, in terms of value delivery, is the final attitude and the behavior of the customers towards the product, or towards the workers, towards in terms of particular functions that's been asked of them internally. So whatever the behavioral issue, there has to be understanding of it, an interpretation of that behavioral issue. That's the definition. Then the development is looking at motivation and commitment, which is what comes out of the interpretation and understanding. And then the final delivery is the attitude and behavior once that situation has been understood and perhaps the company has adjusted to it. Organizational. Well, the value definition here could be learning. The organization is constantly learning, updating its processes, understanding the market, and so on. The value development is the responsiveness of the organization to changing situations, to innovations in the market, innovations in product design, customer requirements. It's responsiveness. And the value delivery there is reinvention. The company must go back to its product and develop its product, in line with the market requirements. So the value delivery is reinvention, going back, innovating, changing, modifying, updating. And this is the process of going to market. This is how the company, in a sense, goes to market in terms of values. And it's looking at the right-hand side, the value delivery, looking at the supply chain, how it can effectively manage the supply chain, right from start to finish, from deliveries of raw materials, let's say, to the final product, or if it's services, whatever the equivalents are. The attitude behavior, and the whole idea of innovation and change, and incorporating all of this into the business. And these are the values that are involved in going to market. These are what generate, if you like, customer value. Change strategy. Well, in order to provide customer value, there needs to be an efficient approach to integration, implementation, and control. It's important that in trying to meet customer needs and requirements and to create the value that the customers require, then there's a need to perhaps integrate to make sure there's a greater coordination between the various tasks that are needed, between what the marketing department is feeding back, between what the marketing department and the production department, greater integration between production, stores, production, logistics, delivery. So, and a very efficient process is developed right throughout the organization. And the product designs are coming through fast and are easily integrated into the production rota, the production system. So it's implemented and also it's controlled. There's widespread understanding of the requirements, so it's capable of being controlled. There needs to be carefully managed activities and planning operations to be more efficient in delivering value. There needs to be better managed activities. There needs to be clear management of all the activities, and all the operations need to be planned clearly and distinctly, and efficiency within the organization is of paramount importance, not least of which because there is competitive pressure globally on the business. So we have the strategy of the business, and then we have the plan. And the plan is external marketing, the program of production, the product itself, the price, the communications, distribution. These are all words that need to be somehow dealt with within the plan. The plan needs to address each of these. It needs to talk about what are the external marketing issues and what's the program, how is it going, how is the business going to set out how it's going to move forward, what is its plans, perhaps its strategies into the short term and the long term. Strategies are normally dealt with in the long term, but how is it going to cope in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Where does the business want to be? So it must have a good mission statement. And what's the product and how is it developing? How does it see the product? And so on and so on. So these issues that are in this little box, they need to be addressed within the plan. So it's the external influences, the customers, the suppliers, the competitors. And then we've got the internal marketing, the product, the program, the price, communications, distribution. That's internal. How does the business itself deal with the product, the price, and so on? How does it determine these? What are the internal factors? So the influences within the business, the stakeholders. How does it balance all of the needs within the business? The employees want better salaries and better working conditions. The shareholders want more dividends. Customers want cheaper products. There's lots of tensions that the management must deal with and try to cope with. And these feed back into the plan. So this is the internal and external marketing of the business. This has been a long class, and it's important that you go over it a few times. Stop the video, go and have a cup of coffee or a drink of water, come back, make some notes, stop the video again, go back and keep doing it. Make your own notes and be sure that you understand the various topics that are covered in here. There's the source I was talking about earlier that I mentioned, Percy. But you'll find lots of material online as well if you have access to the internet. And that's it for this class, so thank you for watching.